What is up, everybody? Today I am going over the small fight card, UFC 289, only 11 fights, which is rare for a pay-per-view. So we got to strategize around that. I'm giving you guys my lock picks, my value pick, and my fade pick, all in the name of profit. Let's do this damn thing. All right, so first things first here, I'm gonna analyze the fight card and formulate a strategy within these variables that we look at every single time. Variable number one, how many fights are in this fight card? 11. That is a small fight card. 13 is average. So obviously 11 is below average. Also, second variable I like to look at is the ITD lines, as well as how many wrestlers are in this fight card. I like to look at these because wrestlers and finishers are the fighters that tend to score higher than non-finishers and non-wrestlers. ITD lines are about average. We only have one wrestler, so I would say the winning lineup will be a low-scoring winning lineup, and the reason behind this is that when there's less fighters to choose from that will score more than 100 just based off of the low numbers here. The variable that makes me question this and makes me not just pin this down as a low scoring fight card is the fact that it's international in Canada. Generally, when they're in international fights like in England or say in Canada, Australia, the crowd is very hyped up because they do not get as many fights as we get in the USA, and the fighters seem to feed off of that energy. So we do see a lot of high pace finishing fights. So that's the only reason why I'm pinning this as a not pinning this as a complete low scoring fight card. Okay, so the third and final variable that I like to look at here is how many live dogs there are. And in this case, there's 6. Live dogs are any underdog that's 2-1 or below that. And in this case, there's not many dogs. We have 6 of them to choose from. Again, we have 6. So what I'm strategizing here is I feel like this is going to be about an average to above average winning lineup. So I do want high ceiling fighters. There's not many value. It doesn't look like there's going to be much value to get here because the underdogs, there's only 6 of them that I feel like are live, and the value tends to come from underdogs. So low volume lineups here. I'm not going to build many lineups. I'm going to stick with the moderate to heavy favorites. A combination of high ceilings and high floors, but more high ceilings. I'm looking at 4 to 3 high ceiling fighters and 1 to 2 high floor fighters. A combination of that and low volume lineups is a strategy for this UFC 289 fight card. Okay, so for my lock here, I like Miranda Maverick. She is priced at the 5th highest price here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's priced at the 5th highest price, her rare card. Although she is the 2nd highest win odds here, just below Amanda Nunes. So I like the value here for her. She is very young. She's only 25, and she does have pretty good experience in the UFC. I like the youth because when they're young, they normally get better as they progress in their UFC career. And Miranda Maverick, before those 2 losses, I actually would just say one loss to Macy Barber, I feel like was a robbery. She's still a very highly touted prospect here, and she did lose to Erin Blanchfield, which is nothing to be ashamed of, because she does seem to be, speaking of Blanchfield right now, she's coming off of a win against Jessica Andrade, and she's right at the door for a title shot here. So that's a loss has aged very well. And looking at Maverick's game log and her decision wins, she still scores high. She scores at 99, and at 119 in her decision wins. And if she finishes her opponent, you know, the ceiling is truly the sky here with any fighter that finishes her opponent. So she does have that wrestling upside. She's taken down her opponents 5 and 4 times in her last 2 fights. So I like her wrestling upside here. Just a very safe pick with value price here, because although she is a heavy favorite, she's priced below the 3 fighters that are less favored below her. Last thing I like about her is she's very physical, and as we all know in women's MMA, physicality does go a long way. Well, at least it goes longer than it does in men's MMA. Okay, now so for my value pick, I like Maria Oliveira. She's a favorite and she's priced as an underdog. Actually, a pretty heavy underdog. She's the 4th lowest priced fighter here at 298. So if you want to save money somewhere, that's a very good place to save it. As you all know, if you're playing the rare contest, you do need 2 rare cards. So you can have her. I wouldn't suggest having her as your captain because that is a low ceiling fighter here. But to save money, it could be your 2nd rare card, and that will save you capital when you're building your lineups. Above that, I like her because even in a win, a low scoring win, this is a small fight card. So just a win with a low score will go further than if it was a larger fight card. And there's many fighters that have the potential to score over 100 points. Okay, and now my fade. My fade here is, which is difficult for me to say because I really like this fighter, is Chris Curtis. I say this because he is KO dependent. For him to score high, he needs to finish inside the distance, and he is an underdog, and he is priced like he's a favorite. He is priced virtually the same as Imavov, even though he's not as much of a win odds equal to Imavov. Imavov is at 57.5, where Chris Curtis is at 42.5. The inside the distance for that fight's at 47.62, so not that good. And his particular ITD line for Chris Curtis is 25%, which is pretty bad. Decision, if he decisions him, I feel like this fight's gonna end up being like a sparring match because these 2 guys are very high level, decorated strikers. I wouldn't exactly call them dogs, so I feel like either one's gonna bring the dog out of the other one. I do see this as a very fun to watch. I think this fight's gonna be very fun to watch, a technical match. So it could turn out to be a bit of a sparring-like match atmosphere. And if he does have a decision win, and he only scores 78 points on that decision win. All right, that's it for my picks here. I did leave out the main event. I do think you need the main event in every one of your lineup, whether it be Aldana or Nunes. I have a separate video breaking down that fight because there's so much going into that fight. I feel like it needs a video on its own. I will link it to the description in this video, and I am done.